This is a brief examination of the Aeon card in the Thoth Tarot. Besides basic information, I'll discuss the details in the card I consider most exciting. Before doing so, let me mention that this card was picked by my viewers over adjustment and fortune. Taking that seriously, I left those for later and focused on this script. Judgment. The Aeon card was initially called Judgment or was Judgment. Examples are traditional decks like the Arthur Waite, Golden Dawn and BOTA. The card depicts Angel Israfel awakening the dead from their graves by trumpeting and waving the Osirian flag, and as Crowley explains, the cross symbolizes the Osirian era, but more on that in a moment. Conventionally, the Judgment card is described as expressing John's prophecy about the end of times from the Book of Revelations. On the contrary, many scholars agree that this isn't the end of the world, and according to understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, it is the second apocalyptic holocaust which ended with a Jewish revolt, the destruction of the world. Nevertheless, the older version of the Aeon card does communicate the destruction of the world. As hinted at by the postures of some of the dead, this is accomplished by fire. What those postures resemble is the letter Shin, which we'll discuss briefly, and according to the Book of Thoth, quote, "This, the destruction of the world, was accomplished in the year of the vulgar era 1904, when the fiery god Horus took the place of the airy god Osiris in the east as Hierophant. At the beginning then of this new Aeon, it is fit to exhibit the message of that angel who brought the news of the new Aeon to earth. The new card is thus of necessity an adaptation of the stele of revealing." Unquote. Apparently, this doesn't mean the world ended in a literal sense. It rather conveys that the world, as it was known back then, was destroyed at that time. Aeons. Telema recognizes 3 Aeons in the collective memory. A new one doesn't occur from actual gods fighting in space, and instead that's a metaphor for the state of the whole race's consciousness. When there's a cosmic shift in consciousness, there's also a new Aeon. The current or most recent one marks the latest stage in humanity's development. The Dark Ages. The destruction of the world, and thus the coming of the new Aeon, translates into destroying the old mental structures, paradigms and dogmas. Being the most difficult, the first years of the new Aeon can be regarded as its dark ages. The reason is because there's a direct clash between the old and the new, yet the more it progresses, the brighter things become, as it's encouraged by the Book of Thoth. Quote, "It is thought far from comforting to the present generation that 500 years of dark ages are likely to be upon us, but if the analogy holds, that is the case. Fortunately, today we have brighter torches and more torch-bearers." Unquote. A new Aeon. The Book of Thoth acknowledges several factors as markers of a beginning of a new Aeon. That includes concentration of political power and advancements in travel and communication, such as in science and philosophy. Considering the present, I think we have all that going with full force. Duration of Aeons. Aeons really don't have a predetermined duration. Instead, they occur as humanity evolves. Whether Aeons entirely replace each other is debatable, so let me know if you're interested in discussing that on the channel. The main message of the Aeon card. Above all else, the Aeon card conveys the formula of the Aeon of Horus, which, according to Telema, is the newest Aeon we live in. Yet, to explain that requires saying a few words about the preceding stages of humanity's development. So let's start with the first. The Aeon of Isis. Associated with matriarchy, the first Aeon is of Isis, taking place in the Age of Leo. The formula of that Aeon was that Earth is a mother, a giver of life, and the great goddess. The biggest mystery of that time was the woman's period and pregnancy, such as how they corresponded to the moon phases. The Aeon of Osiris. Succeeding that of the great goddess, the formula of the dying god is identified with the Age of Pisces. The Aeon of Osiris began when farming developed. Figuring out the sun's crucial role in growing anything, humans began likening that to the semen of a male and eventually God. However, rather than seeing the creation as a collaboration between masculine and feminine, sun and earth, humans made God an abusive father figure. Ironically, this perception developed when humans actually believed that the sun dies every day at dusk. Sadly, its side effects proceed even now at the dawn of the new Aeon. During the Aeon of Osiris, humans realized that everything in nature runs cyclically, hence the formula of the dying god was adopted, and this opened our Osirian ancestors to another truth: life comes out of death. To align themselves with that, humans began all sorts of sacrifices, starting with humans and animals and moving to bread and wine. Usually that was in the name of the king, the supreme representative of the male god. The formula of the Aeon of Osiris was based on the denial of one's flesh, desires, basic urges, etc. This was also when the notion that God waits to punish you for all this developed, leading to using self-flagellation for so-called purification. The Aeon of Horus. The Aeon of Horus is a reconciliation of the two preceding Aeons and matriarchy and patriarchy. Whether it began on the 9th of April 1904, it made some undeniable changes in the world. Some examples include destroying the patriarchal rule of European kings, such as the illusion of the ubiquitous power of the Church and the Pope. Another is that women finally have equal rights, or at least they do, in most countries. While previously that was unthinkable, now an increasing number of males openly recognize their traumas from patriarchy and go against the status quo of what quote-unquote real men should and shouldn't do, such as what emotions are appropriate for men and what for women. Finally, more and more people are perfectly comfortable with their skin, sexuality, gender, race and culture. There's a huge interest in the divine feminine and recognizing and exploring both aspects of oneself. In the Aeon of Horus, humans use signs for their understanding and notions about the universe and their lives. Speaking of that, I suggest checking my books that are based on the science behind fasting and self-discipline. Illustration and deities. Generally, the Aeon card depicts the stele of revealing in a more modern, dynamic and colorful manner. There are Nuit and Hadit, such as their child Horus. Nuit. The first deity is Nuit, the infinite space and potentialities. As addressed in my video on the star card, Nuit resembles the oval letter Omega. Arching over it, Nuit's body is wrapped around the egg of white, holding the throned god. Nuit is the expanded universe containing everything and the continuity of existence as reiterated in the Book of the Law, and her breast encompassed galaxies. Unlike in the star card, where the goddess is personified as a human-seeming figure, in the Aeon, she is, quote, the surrounding space of heaven, the pure philosophical idea, continuous and omniform. Kabbalistically, Nuit can be attributed to the second veil of negative existence, Ein Sof, such as to Keter. Hadit. Being the center point perceiver, or the center point of the universe, which can be anywhere, Hadit is conceptualized as the infinity of an ultimately contracted universe. He is the fiery globe representing infinite energy. The most low-key deity in the card, Hadit is placed on the top of the inverted egg. Considering modern science and the Big Bang theory, Hadit can be seen as the pre-Big Bang singularity. The Book of Thoth explains Hadit with the following, quote, the ubiquitous point of view, the only philosophically tenable conception of reality, unquote. And Kabbalistically, Hadit can be attributed to the first veil of negative existence, Ein, such as Keter. The egg. The upsided egg of white is in fact right between Nuit and Hadit, symbolizing their unity, such as the creation resulting from reconciling feminine and masculine. Horus, the double god. Horus, or Ra-Hoor-Khuit, Sunflesh, is the crowned and conquering child. As the third deity of the Thelemic Trinity, Horus is a double or composite god. It has an active extroverted or mature and passive introverted aspect, which is why the scholar Elisur defines it as an androgen. Being the active one, Ra-Hoor-Khuit is the hawk-headed deity, whereas the hologram or ghost-like chubby child is Horparkrat or Harpocrates. Kabbalistically, Ra-Hoor-Khuit can be attributed to the third veil of negative existence, Ein Sof or limitless white, such as Keter, and Crowley explains that Heru is in fact identical to the angel Ra-Hoor, who is the one of the tarot. It's said that Horus is also a dual-wanded god, yet his right hand holds a vast scepter, whereas the left one is empty, and the reason is that he single-handedly crushed the universe with its old paradigms. The crowned and conquering child. Being the crowned and conquering child, Horus symbolizes the fully evolved, self-aware human being of the 21st century. While Horus associates with the sun, that really exemplifies that every man and every woman is a star, and that I think is evidence that Thelema isn't much solar, but actually stellar. Hebrew letter and path. The Aeon card is attributed to the 31st path joining Hot Splendor and Malkuth Kingdom, and this is the path of the Hebrew letter Shin. One of the three mother letters Shin attributes to the element of fire, such as spirit. It means tooth and 300 and symbolizes something that penetrates or pierces like the force of fire. Holding three yachts, the letter Shin lies hidden in the lowest part of the card. These yachts are basically cocoons or capsules holding three human beings, which according to Crowley are ready to partake in the new Aeon. Esoteric names. The esoteric name of Atu-20 in the Golden Dawn system is the spirit of primal fire. Based on the Sefer Yetzirah or the Book of Formation, the esoteric name of the 31st path is perpetual intelligence. While the first relation to the letter Shin and the fire element is quite apparent, in the 32 paths of wisdom, Paul Foster Case explains the second is continuous monitoring of intelligence of the progress of the personality toward universal consciousness. According to Liber Theta, the perpetual intelligence directs the sun and the moon based on their natural order, each in its proper orbit. Meanings and behavior. The meanings of the Aeon card include final decision in respect of the past, new current in respect of the future, always represents the taking of a definite step. The Sign of Libra. According to Crowley, this is the foreshadowing of the next Aeon, which is to follow the present one, presumably in about 2000 years. Yet Crowley explains it is too early to say what that will be. On the contrary, some scholars offer it is the Aeon of Mud associated with balance and equilibration. Others believe it will or it already is the one of Set, and third predict we are approaching the Aeon of Typhon. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. Otherwise, like this video if it provides value, subscribe for more content like this, check my other works and books, especially the PDFs I made on the fields of operation and SRP, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.